Let's get some analysis now and reaction from the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, California Congressman Adam Schiff. Congressman, thanks for the time. Your assessment of today's hearing.
Well, I found it quite stunning. It's not every day you have a former director of the FBI saying that he couldn't trust the president, that the president had demanded loyalty from him in a conversation that at least in part centered around whether the director would keep his job, and most significantly, that he was asked to drop a criminal case involving a very high-profile surrogate of the president on the campaign trail, but more importantly, the National Security Advisor of the United States. So pretty stunning in many respects.
I want to take a listen to some of the questioning, specific issues that you just mentioned there today.
Did the president at any time ask you to stop the FBI investigation into Russian involvement in the 2016 U.S. elections?
Not to my understanding, no.
Did any individual working for this administration, including the Justice Department, ask you to stop the Russian investigation?
No.
This is the president speaking. I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. You don't know of anyone that's ever been charged for hoping something. Is that a fair statement?
I don't, as I sit here.
Why didn't you stop and say, Mr. President, this is wrong? I cannot discuss this with you.
It's a great question.
Did you tell the White House counsel that is not an appropriate request? Someone needs to go tell the president that he can't do these things?
I didn't, no.
Why?
In the moment, it didn't come to my mind.
Congressman, do you think there's an obstruction of justice case here?
I think there's certainly evidence that was presented in his testimony that the president may have sought to interfere or obstruct the investigation. There's obviously a question about whether there's sufficient evidence of that. But if we were prosecuting a case of obstruction, his entire testimony would come in. I don't think there's a judge in the land that would find it wasn't relevant evidence that goes to obstruction. I think one of the most powerful points the director made today is the president each time cleared the room, including cleared the room of the Attorney General. Why would you do that unless you were conscious that what you were about to do was wrong? So I do think we need to corroborate the director's testimony. We ought to find out whether the president also asked other directors to weigh in with Director Comey to drop the Flynn case. I think we ought to obviously examine those contemporaneous memoranda, as well as talk to people in the FBI who worked with Director Comey, some of which were present while he was on the telephone with the president.
So he was also asked, Comey was, whether he thought he would be FBI director today had he not been fired. He said yes. What about the questioning from Dianne Feinstein and Marco Rubio and others about his reaction? Should he have believed that there was, in fact, obstruction of justice, and his reaction to it?
I think those were perfectly appropriate questions, as was the question, if this is wrong, why didn't you confront the president? And, of course, his answer was that he was stunned, but nonetheless, I think it's fair to ask, after you got over the shock of what the president said, why wasn't this raised with other people at the Justice Department? If you didn't feel you could go to the Attorney General, why not go to the acting Deputy Attorney General? I think those are all perfectly fair questions, and people can evaluate whether he took the right steps or not. But I do think that that the underlying facts he outlined of what took place seem very credible to me.
Legal analyst and law professor Jonathan Turley wrote this: "It is certainly true that if Trump made these comments, his conduct is wildly inappropriate. However, talking like Tony Soprano does not make you Tony Soprano." It is similar to the argument that the House Speaker made today about the president's style as a New York real estate developer and not used to the inner workings of Washington. Do you buy that?
I don't buy that. You can't hold this president to a different ethical standard that you would hold others to. And again, the fact that he dismisses other people from the room shows to me a consciousness that what he is doing is wrong. But more than that, this isn't just about how the president talks. If the president was trying to get the director of the FBI to drop a criminal case involving someone very close to the president, that is serious business, and I don't think it's just a rhetorical question.
Was it appropriate for the FBI director, former FBI director, to leak the contents of those memos of the private meetings with the president to a friend to be leaked to the media?
I think if the director was as concerned as he evidently was that either this evidence might not be preserved or that the true story ought to get out, I think the director should have come to the public directly himself or come to Congress and made those statements and clarified the record and not gone through a third party. So that's what I think the director should have done.
Speaking of the media, he says there have been many stories based on classified information purportedly, lots of stuff, but especially about Russia, that are just dead wrong. Congressman, you've cited a lot of stories with anonymous sourcing. The former FBI director is saying a lot of that is dead wrong. What do you think of that?
You know, certainly some of the stories are wrong. Indeed, as you know, some of the stories on Fox about the British being participants in surveillance of President Trump were wrong. That doesn't excuse the president's conduct here. We do need to get to the bottom of what allegations that are aired in public in these stories are true and what are not true. But yes, certainly there has been press reporting that has been erroneous. At times there's been press reporting that has been all too accurate. I will say this, though. Any reporting that reveals sources and methods, anyone that is disclosing sources and methods, that's a real problem.
Fox News Division, by the way, never backed up that British report. Let me just ask you a couple more things. One is there was talk today and questioning about the former Attorney General Loretta Lynch meeting with the former President Bill Clinton on that tarmac in Arizona. And here is some of that in the questioning.
Was your decision influenced by the Attorney General's tarmac meeting with the former President Bill Clinton?
Yes, in a ultimately conclusive way.
Were there other things that contributed to that you can describe in an open session?
At one point, the Attorney General had directed me not to call it an investigation, but instead to call it a matter, which confused me and concerned me. It gave the impression that the Attorney General was looking to align the way we talked about our work with the way a political campaign was describing the same activity, which was inaccurate. We had a criminal investigation open.
So, Congressman, for all the talk about political influence in this Russia investigation from allegedly the Trump administration, Director Comey is making a direct charge here that then Attorney General Loretta Lynch was politically active in how he was supposed to characterize that investigation. Your thoughts?
Well, yes. I think Director Comey did shed additional light on how the Justice Department was viewing or handling or talking about the Clinton investigation. What was most significant to me about that, though, apart from knowing more about the historical record, is what light it shed on Director Comey. And Director Comey there, I think, acknowledged that he agreed to use a different word to talk about a matter rather than investigation, something he was uncomfortable with. I think in evaluating the credibility of a witness, you look at something like that when someone admits they did something they're not proud of, and that enhances the credibility of the rest of their testimony, at least in my view.
Congressman Schiff, we appreciate your time. You're always welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.